women are taught to be victims right now, to have this total victim mindset. And there's so much of this underlying desire for equality and this perceived inequality. And so that that just breeds envy. And so instead of seeing themselves in their right role as their husband's helper, to come alongside him in his mission and amplify that it becomes more of a competition of who has it the hardest. And when you are kind of in that mode with your husband, it pits you guys against each other instead of making you a team.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Feminine Glory podcast. I am one of your hosts, Lydia Edmonds, and I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Esther Edmonds.
Hello, everyone.
And we have a very special guest on the podcast today, someone you have heard us talk about a lot, so let's jump right into it.
So on the podcast today, we have Heather Faria. She is a wife of 14 years, a homeschool mama to 2 beautiful boys, and a homemaker residing in the wine country of Northern California. Her biggest passion is seeking to cultivate a life-giving home for her family that reflects the better home to come. We are honored to have you on the podcast today. So Heather, welcome and thank you.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
So what made you want to start the Keeping the Citadel magazine, and when did you officially launch?
Yeah, so it's funny because people ask me this a lot, and it's actually kind of a hard question to answer. I mean, I started in last summer. I started preparing for it in July, and I shipped out my first magazine in September. And it was just a whole whirlwind, the experience of it. This is something that I've wanted to do for years and years and years. And last year, I just knew that it was time, that I was ready, that it was a good season in our lives to do something like that. But I wasn't necessarily thinking it was going to be, I don't know, kind of the hustle it was to get it out, you know, in such a short amount of time. But God made it work. So that was really exciting. And just seeing the way that he provided in all those kind of last minute ways to get that first issue out was so incredible.
So was it like something you were seeing in the culture and women in particular that you were like, okay, they need this type of information in this way, like through a magazine instead of just, you know, primarily like social media or something like that?
Yes. Yeah. This has been something that has been kind of a burden on my heart for a long time. And I think for a few reasons. One, I just think that women in the church today are really lacking good content. There's so much great content for godly Christian men, which is wonderful and it's extremely needed. But I just don't feel like there's as much for women, especially because the church is really inundated with a lot of feminism, and that has completely creeped in. And so a lot of the content that is there for women is just very feminist. And it's shallow. It's there's nothing really solid to it. There's nothing that's really focused on what God's design is for us in our femininity. And so one, I saw a need there, that there needs to be something that women can go to and glean from and be discipled in and encouraged in. But also, women don't have time necessarily to sit there and read tons and tons of books, especially when they get into the stages of marriage and motherhood. And I'm an avid reader myself. I'm a huge fan of books, but practically speaking, we just live in a world where, you know, most people aren't sitting there reading tons of books all the time. And so what are they doing? They're spending lots of time on social media. And that's kind of where they're going to for their discipleship. And so I wanted to give something that was in written form so that people can have this to because when you read something, it just gets into your brain and your heart in a different way than when you're, you know, scrolling through something quickly, or you're even listening to something on audio. It sinks in deeper. And so I wanted that, but I wanted it also to be in that bite-sized chunk kind of application.
Yeah.
And so I felt like a magazine would be a great way to do it. But more than that, the reason why I really was drawn to this magazine idea, I have a huge thing for themes and just telling a good story, you know. And this comes out in a lot of areas of my life, like in the way I party plan or the way I homeschool. But with a magazine, it has a theme that is telling this story, and women are getting to see how all these different areas like motherhood, marriage, homemaking, going out and living in practical ways in the world, how these are all tying together into a central theme of what it looks like to live in a godly way in these applications. And so and what a magazine also does is it's visual. And so I think what it does is it speaks to the heart in a way that a book can't, because it doesn't have the visual, and it can inspire you to see a picture of what, for example, biblical womanhood is in a very beautiful way. A lot of the images that we are being given of biblical womanhood are not beautiful. And they're either cheesy or dated, and we need things that in our culture right now that is so anti-biblical womanhood. We need pictures and visions to give women where they see like, wow, this is really great. I want to be a part of this, and something that we're calling them to that is good, and not this restricting or tacky or cheesy type thing, you know?
Yeah, because it's funny you were talking, it reminded me, like, we even do that with recipes. Like, if you see the photo and you're like, that looks incredible, I have to make that. It's like the same thing, but in the magazine with biblical femininity.
That's such a great example. I'm going to have to use that one, because it's true. When I see a recipe, I don't want to make it unless I've seen the picture. You know, that's kind of what inspires me and makes me think, oh, that's something I want to make. I could make that. My family would like that. And so, I think books are essential, but there's something about when you're having a message alongside of something visually beautiful that I think gets into our hearts and our imaginations in a different way. And what I really want to do is capture the hearts of women in a way that will spur them toward obedience.
So had you had any experience, because the way that you've designed the magazine is absolutely beautiful. Have you had any experience with designing magazines, or was it just a lot of research and trial and error?
It's funny because I feel like graphic design is the job that I never trained for or imagined for myself, and it's kind of the job I've landed into like over and over again. And I don't really know how it happened, but I think it's just one of those things. I really have an eye for design, and so it's something that I just have played with and dabbled in over the years. But it tends to be the thing, like at our church, if they need a graphic for something, they end up asking me. But I also, before I did Keeping the Citadel, I ran another business called The Land of Storybooks, and it was a subscription box business, and I designed all of the material for that. So I learned a lot about graphic design during that period. I've also helped design curriculum for other people. Wow. And so it's just something that I've learned how to do and kind of get an eye for. I didn't have any training or professional experience. This has all been things I've just kind of figured out and done.
Well, you are extremely talented at it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So let's talk about, what was the inspiration behind the name Keeping the Citadel? Because I really like that name. So could you tell our audience what the inspiration was behind that?
Yeah. So if you guys read my article in the first magazine, it talks about how that is really from the story of Éowyn from Lord of the Rings. So a citadel is a place of refuge. It's a fortress in a time of war. And it's a place where people go to be safe and to be rejuvenated and get their rest and taken care of when the war is out there. And so in the story of The Lord of the Rings, there's this character named Éowyn, and she is tasked with keeping the citadel while her people are out fighting this great battle at, well, in the movie it's in Helm's Deep, but in the book it's different. But anyway, she is very resentful of this task that she's been given. She is from this country where the women are, well, they all are encouraged to have a very warrior type mindset. And so she only sees the value in being a fighter in that capacity. And she believes that her worth is diminished in taking care of protecting the women and the children and keeping them safe and safeguarding this place for her people. And she feels that her worth would be much more suited out fighting and having this glory that comes from the battlefield. And so I chose this because you would think that this kind of has this opposite effect. You know, she doesn't want to keep the citadel. But this is the way that we see the culture of our women today, so it's kind of speaking to these women who are really being told that they need to go out and fight these battles of our culture like men. And in order to be a strong woman, you need to have this fancy career, or you need to be out protesting in the streets, or you need to be, screaming about things on social media and all these problems, and just acting in very masculine ways, and where women think that is where their value is. That is what it looks like to be a truly strong woman. And they're really doing like what Éowyn is doing. And so what happens later on in the story is that Éowyn ends up getting humbled, and she meets a man who ends up showing her the value in being a nurturer and a life giver and a healer, and in loving your people and being fighting for the love of your people, not just for the love of the fight. And she ends up realizing what her real role is and taking joy in that. And it ends up healing all these wounds in her heart when she actually steps into the role that she was created to have. And so in that, she ends up embracing it, figuratively speaking, her job as a keeper of the citadel. And so I wanted to have this idea that as women, we are called to a battle and we are called to fight, but not in the same way as men. What we have been given in this task of making our homes a refuge for the weary, for the people who enter, a place of hospitality, a place of nurturing. This is a high and holy task, and it's essential to the battle of our time. It's essential to fighting against darkness, and that it takes not a weak woman, but a very strong woman to be able to carry out that role well. And so, yeah, I wanted that to be kind of this something that is inspiring women to be like, oh, being a homemaker isn't this thing that's for, brainless, weak, fragile women. This is actually what strong women do. And even expanding on just the home, that our whole lives are meant to be citadels that shine out to a dark world. A citadel often has like a light that shines out so that people know where to come from, like a lighthouse. And I see as women that God has put us into this world to be a light and to people in the darkness, and that everywhere we go, we can be a citadel of light for the people that we encounter. And so that's really kind of just my heart and mind. I know it's a little bit, I don't know, of a niche name. And so it might not be self-explanatory to everybody who comes across it, but I don't know. I love it. So
No, I think that's great. And it provides the opportunity to explain it. Like if people don't understand, I mean, I think it's self-explanatory, but if people don't understand it, then that offers a great opportunity to talk about it to people. So yeah, I think that's great. It's really amazing.
Thank you.
So we talked about this a little bit earlier, touched on it, but then how do you kind of decide the theme for each issue? Because I was thinking through it, like you would have to be have a good pulse on the culture to kind of know, like, okay, for this season, this is what our culture needs at this moment. And then also I feel like they fit nicely with the seasons, like when it's been the fall and then the winter and now the spring issue. So how do you go about deciding the theme for each one?
Yeah. It's funny because when I planned out these themes so first of all, there's 4 issues in a year. They come out quarterly. So people who are subscribed can get an issue every 3 months. But I didn't intend on the particular themes that I had planned out for each issue lining up with these themes. I was actually hoping to launch this back in January of last year. And it worked out where I began it with the school year, so it started in September. And now, this is pushed out. For example, right now we're doing a theme on suffering and beauty. And it's completely tying in with the theme of spring and Easter and new life. And I didn't actually have that planned. So that was God.
Wow.
That was God working that out. Yes. And I was just like, oh, thank you, Lord. This is like really perfect for this time of year. But yeah, when I planned out the themes for each issue, I really wanted to give kind of a baseline foundation this first year of everything that is behind the mission of what I'm talking about when I mean, what does it mean to keep your citadel? What does it mean to be a woman who lives a better story? So one of the things that I say on the podcast a lot, or in the magazines as well, is embrace your high calling, live a better story, and keep the flame of your citadel burning brightly. And so what I want this to do is to speak to the way that feminism is trying to pull women away from embracing their high calling. And so, encouraging women to see the value in that. And then in living a better story, that is speaking to how to just not have this kind of survival mindset where you're kind of just pushing through the mundane or seeing it as this drudgery duty that you have to do, but really embracing like this is a high calling, and so I'm going to live it well. I'm going to see it as this beautiful adventure and live it to the fullest, and live with courage and grit and pursue virtue in the midst of this, and then with, obviously keep the flame of your citadel burning brightly. That is how we can be a beacon to the world through our homes and through our faithfulness and productivity that we're creating in our homes. So that really kind of summarizes the mission behind it. And so with these first 4 issues, I wanted to kind of dive deep into that and set a baseline foundation so that in subsequent years, we can kind of be building on that.
So how do you go about deciding what contributors you want to go for each issue? Is it like you decide the theme first and then it's who would be best to talk on this theme, or do you do the people first and then it's the theme?
Yeah. Well, first, when I am looking for a contributor, I want to see, do they line up doctrinally, and that doesn't have to be on every single issue, but I'm looking for women who are reformed in their doctrine and who embrace biblical womanhood. So that's kind of where I start from, just making sure that we're aligned doctrinally. But from there, I really look to see, does this woman in what I see in the content that they share online, if it's somebody who I am looking for online, or somebody in real life, like, in my town, that I want to ask, is this somebody that I see really living out what they're talking about? Do I see that they are actually being faithful in walking the walk and not just talking the talk? And so that's kind of where I start. And then from there, I just kind of think, what are things that I see that this woman is gifted in or passionate about, and or maybe they have skill and experience in. And so that's kind of a lot of what goes into it. I have the topics lined up for each issue, and then I kind of go through my people, and I think, okay, I think she would be really good about writing about this. And, and sometimes we have to move people around, and that's fine. I might be actually kind of readjusting how we do that in the future, but that's kind of been how it's been so far.
So what has been your favorite part about running the magazine so far?
I'm interested to hear this one.
Okay, well, for sure, it's been meeting such incredible women. It's, that has been the biggest blessing, getting to see women who are like-minded and on mission around the country. And because oftentimes I think when we're doing this work in our homes, it can feel really lonely. And depending on what your community looks like in your location, I think that that can vary for different people. And thankfully, I do have a wonderful group of women who I am able to be on mission with here where I live. Even, sometimes there are things that you can just want to share with people, and you don't have the opportunity to. And I feel like with getting to meet you guys, all of the writers that I've had be a part of this so far, it has just been really incredible and encouraging and uplifting to my soul to know that I'm not the only one who is passionate about this and who is dedicated to doing this kind of work for the kingdom. And so, yeah, it's, even though we're far away, we get to link arms, and I love that. Mm-hmm. And then also, I would say, hearing from people who have been impacted by it, and I would say primarily people in my hometown. That has been extremely humbling to me, that this is having an impact of discipleship with just women in my own community, but even across the country. And I mean, with the podcast, I have people listening around the world, and that is mind-blowing to me. And I just feel very humbled and grateful that God would use this in this way. It's when you start something like this, you hope and pray that the Lord will use it and that it will not be in vain, especially when you're putting so much time and effort into it. And to be able to hear that it is a blessing and impacting people has just been such a gift. So, yeah.
And I know, when we were either looking for a church or starting the podcast or whatever, and you start to see, you meet other women or you hear of the impact like you were talking about. I know something we've talked about as a family, and I think we might have mentioned this to you before even, it's like you get to meet the 7,000 that have not bowed the knee to Baal, and it's like there are other people out there that are like-minded. It makes the world feel smaller in a way, because there's this network of people that you're like, okay, these are my people.
Yes, yeah, and it's so encouraging.
Yes, it really is.
So I'm glad you brought up the podcast. So in tandem with the magazine, I think how shortly after did you start the podcast, and then what got you interested to start a podcast in the first place?
Yeah, the podcast, it was a total, I don't know. It wasn't my first plan. It wasn't something I set out to do. It kind of happened by accident, I like to think, I I thought, okay, how am I going to promote the magazine, and how am I going to connect with people who are reading this when they're because 3 months is a long time in between having that touch point with people. And so I wanted something, a way to be able to connect with people that wasn't just Instagram. And so I thought, okay, well, I guess a podcast would be a good idea because, that comes out more regularly. And even people who aren't able to subscribe to the magazine, they can still be a part of the community and be getting the same message and similar content out. And so, it just kind of happened. It wasn't something that I originally thought that I was going to be doing, but it's ended up being so much fun. Like, I love it.
Awesome.
That's fantastic.
What was that?
Oh, I'm sorry. I just said that was fantastic.
Oh, yeah. So it's been really fun. But yeah, it was not something I originally thought, like, oh, I'm going to start a magazine and a podcast at the same time.
So how do you juggle? So you have the podcast, you have the magazine, you homeschool, you're a wife. How do you juggle all of that day in and day out?
Yeah. Well, my husband is amazing. So he helps me so much with the boys, not in a way where it's taking over my responsibilities, but just in his support and encouragement and the way he leads us. I would not be able to manage our home and the boys if I didn't have him leading our home well. And just having his support and encouragement, being able to talk through the various issues and things that come up with him, that is such a huge help to me. Even things like, I think I mentioned this to you, Esther, before, because I have to do a lot of work on Saturdays because I'm homeschooling during the day on the week. And so he'll take them out a lot of times on Saturdays, and they go hunting or do some kind of outdoor activity together. And it's a great time for them to bond, but it also gives me a chance to get some writing done. But I would also say I do a lot of work in the evenings. So my day is pretty much focused on the home and taking care of my kids. But after they go to bed, I get a lot done during that time. And I'm a really big planner. And so I have to, when you have a lot of things that you're juggling, you have to be really good at planning. And so, and you have to have really good systems and routines in place. Otherwise, everything will just be chaos. And so I do have to plan out my social media content, and I have to have like a lot of these things kind of in place ahead of time. Otherwise, it would just be too much. And also, having writers. It was funny because I was talking to some people at church the other day, and she heard that I have started a magazine, and she thought that I write all the articles. And I'm like, it's enough for me to get one article out. Like, there is no way I am writing all the articles. So, that's... That is huge, because also with this is not meant to be like the Heather Faria show. I don't want to be the face of the brand, so to speak. I definitely want to be the one bringing it and facilitating it, but it's not about me. And so I want this to be a community of women doing that Titus 2 discipleship, who are where we're all kind of doing it together. And so it helps a lot having other women who are doing this with me as well.
I think that's a good picture of even like how the church should be, because it's sad to say that like in some churches, you do see where there's kind of like a pecking order where some women want to be the alpha dog or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And that's really sad to see, but I think that's what you're talking about, where it's a community of people, is actually like everyone's just busy taking care of what they have dominion over, and then but it all kind of goes in tandem to produce this wonderful picture to the world of like what biblical femininity and Christianity actually is about.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Something that you have talked a lot about on your social media is the fact that women need to be supportive of what their husbands are doing and to be an amplifier to their husband's mission instead of holding them back. What are some ways that you have noticed that women are holding their husbands back in our culture today?
I think that there are three things that really hold husbands back that women do. And I think that it's fear and selfishness and toxic empathy. Mm-hmm. And so I think that when it comes to fear, I think that women are afraid of risk a lot of times. I think they're afraid of two things. I think they're afraid of risk, and I think they're afraid of reputation. And their reputation being maligned in some way, or they are concerned about the way their husband will do something will be perceived, or something to that extent, and then just the risk that comes from, or having to put yourself out there. And so I think that's one. I think selfishness is a big one. This is one that I see probably more often than fear, actually, is just women who see their husbands as obligated to providing them with me time. And, I had a long day. You need to take the kids away from me right now, and because I need a break, I need some me time. And so they see their husbands instead of as building his mission, and the leader, they see him almost as like this servant to them and how to make their lives easier. And so, he ends up being kind of their gopher for whatever they want. And that's going to take him away from whatever his mission is. And so I think that women are very focused on how can I make my life convenient? How can I, pursue what I want to do? How can I have my rights and my needs met? And it just is completely, it doesn't have anything to do with the husband. And so, I think that is one of the biggest ways that women can hold their husbands back, because they are seeing him as kind of their servant. So, and then I guess the toxic empathy one would be where they don't want him to have to do what he needs to do because they're afraid it might hurt somebody's feelings. So, yeah.
So going back to the selfishness one, and talking about how when the husband comes home, I think a lot of women kind of view it to where they've been with the kids all day, and so he needs to give her a break. Do you think that kind of comes from the feminist mindset of he's out having all the fun, he's got the job, he's got the career, and so I'm the one at home doing all this work and no one sees me and I don't get in a lot of fun? Do you think it's kind of that feminist mindset that's fed into that? That's why we think we deserve a break?
Oh, absolutely. It's women are taught to be victims right now, to have this total victim mindset, and there's so much of this underlying desire for equality and this perceived inequality, and so that that just breeds envy. And so instead of seeing themselves in their right role as their husband's helper and partner to come alongside him in his mission and amplify that it becomes more of a competition of who has it the hardest. And when you are kind of in that mode with your husband, it pits you guys against each other instead of making you a team.
So what do you think then, as a follow-up to that, would be the proper response? Husband comes home, let's just say it has been a really rough day for you, even with the kids. What would be then the proper response as soon as he walks in the door? What should be the wife's first thing that she does?
it's different for different marriages and what their husband's availability is during the day. I know for me and my husband, though, I usually tell him ahead of time, like I'll text him or call him if he has the opportunity to answer his phone at work, and just kind of let him know like what's going on, so he has an idea before he walks in. And so it's not like he just walks in the door and he's like, hey, and then he has, so I think if you have an opportunity, not in kind of like a, you don't want to be bugging your husband at work, like, oh no, come rescue me. And he has a job to do. So, that shouldn't be the thing. But if you do have an opportunity to give him a heads up and let him know and say, hey, this is what's been going on. Could I get some help with these particular things? Could you talk to the kids about these particular things that happened? Then he kind of has the opportunity to prepare himself and get in that mindset as well, so he doesn't get blasted as soon as he walks in the door. But also, making the home, trying to make it a place of peace and greeting him with excitement and joy when he walks in the door, regardless of how crazy your day has been. It's very important to not make it all about you. Like, maybe he had a really hard day and he needs to come home and feel welcomed and loved, and also have some respite as well. And so, I think it's really important to make sure that you just don't have this where you're all consumed with yourself. It's what we're dealing with in our homes may seem very consuming, but it's not the whole world. So we have to lay aside kind of what we're dealing with for a bit to tend to what needs to be done. And so, I think some husbands, they are ready to launch in and deal with whatever the issue is as soon as they walk in the door. And then some prefer to have kind of some downtime and a little space. I've heard different wives have different experiences with that. And so I think just knowing your husband and what his preference is can really help you guys both on days like that to approach those things in a way where you're both being respected and in that need for reprieve.
Yeah. You say, as a call to action in the magazine, what we need in our culture is women of courage who embrace their duty no matter what. Being courageous, however, can come at a cost. There will be times when it is your husband, kids, siblings, or parents that need to take a stand, even when it costs something. So how can we as women be courageous in those moments as side characters in the stories of those around us?
Yeah, I really like this question. So I think a lot of times when we think of being courageous, we think of things like putting our life on the line, and these big ways that we see people sacrificing their lives, and where death is at stake. And but really, for most people, the courage that we are going to be called to isn't going to be a life and death type issue. I mean, it may be, at some point. But for most of us, we're going to have ordinary courage. And I think that for women, what that looks like is really having the courage to not be liked. And having the courage to be okay with people not understanding where you're coming from, or where where your reputation is at stake, where you are having to maybe be on the outside of your friends, or come into contact with confrontation of some sort. Those are the things that I think are really hard for women. I see, and I'm sure you guys have seen the church members at Christ Kirk, DC, and how they are being just screamed at, and you know, all these just horrible things being said to them every time they walk in and out of the church, and just these people who are very hateful in our culture, who are super against us. And we can see things like that and be like, yeah, we need to be courageous in the face of this type of opposition. Yes, and amen. We absolutely do. We need to be able to, if we're in a situation like that, like walk boldly into that church and, you know, not care if we're having people screaming at us for the sake of Christ. But really what I think we need to do is, if we're having our friends disagree with us or our family, if we're in a situation with people that we know and love, and we have to stand up for the truth and risk offending somebody in that capacity, I at least for me, I think that takes a lot more courage, because then you're risking people that you know and love, and maybe having some kind of conflict with them. Like at the end of the day, if I make, you know, a raging protester upset, it's not going to make me lose sleep. But, you know, if I say something that is going to make one of my friends and somebody that I respect upset because I'm having to stand up for what I believe in, that is where I will, you know, lose sleep. And so my husband we had a situation like this a few months back, and it was a situation where we had to stand up for something that we felt very convicted about. And he told me that he was going to speak in a public setting about this. And in this public setting, these were with people who we very deeply respected and very much love, at people who are close friends of ours, and but he felt very convicted that this was something that he needed to obey God and stand up for. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's happening. Like, I'm going to have to put into action everything I've been talking about and support him. and so I'm like, this is it. And so you know, I'd like to say that like I had no fear in me, but I was definitely trembling. But in that moment, I went and I walked with him, and I stood right next to him, and like I like put my arm around him while he did this, and I walked out with him, and like those are the things where and he handled it beautifully. You know, I was very proud of him and the way he dealt with all of this. But it was something that I knew this is going to potentially cost us friendships or our reputation here. And I think those are the times where we really need to have courage and support our husbands and not hold them back. Because I think as wives, we very much want to not rock the boat with people and preserve our sense of community and be nice and liked and accepted. And we don't want our husband to be seen as like the rebel riser. And so when those moments come and he has to obey God and do the thing that people maybe aren't going to like we need to be ready to stand up and support him in that. So.
And it's something like, as we've had situations where we've had to, you know, there's been conflict or whatever, something our dad has had to remind us of, like, all right, if this is a conviction of yours, you can't waver in this area.
And then against your conscience.
Right. And then the truth is going to, it's going to seem hurtful in the moment, but it's actually the most loving thing, although it doesn't seem like it, because you're like, well, this may cause a rift in our relationship here.
Exactly.
Like, that doesn't seem very loving, but in fact it is. And so it does take courage to do, because it's a very fine balance of like, you know, you just want to waver in that moment, but like, just keep the peace, whatever, it's fine.
Exactly.
but you do have to stand on biblical conviction.
Yes. So I think those are the moments where we need to really exhibit courage.
Yes.
Speaking of courage, shortly after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, you said in one of your posts that we as Christian women need to practice militant hospitality. What do you think militant hospitality looks like? Because you're really intrigued by the way you phrase that.
I think I probably got the phrase from, I don't know, Rachel Jankovic or, one of the Moscow ladies when they talk about that, because I think they do such a great job of exhibiting that in their culture and the way that they are showing hospitality in their homes. But what I mean by that is just the idea of really having that mindset wherever you go. Who can I serve? Who can I welcome in? And that can be both just in a way where you are going out and there. So Nancy Wilson has said something that I really love, where she talks about being a host wherever you go, and being hospitable wherever you are. And I love that, because you don't have to be inviting somebody necessarily into your home in order to be a host. You can show hospitality when you are in a group setting and you are looking for the person who is kind of on the outskirts, and you are making them feel welcomed just by the way you go and approach them and engage them in conversation, the way you see needs and meet them. I think those are ways, outside the home that we can practice that militant hospitality, having eyes to see. But I think also, making yourself ready and available to have people over and invite them into your home, and for that just being a way of life. So I see my best friend Stacy is so good at this, and a lot of the women in my church are just really good about seeing these people who need who are kind of on the outskirts, and going up and getting to know them and welcoming them in. And I think in the post that you're referring to, I was thinking a lot of how people are going to be coming to church looking for a place to belong and looking for answers, and how we need to be ready and we need to be prepared, that when these people come, that they're not coming and they don't have any place to land, and they don't have anyone to give them those answers. So.
And it is like when you were talking about just being a host wherever you're going, that is like discipleship, which you've probably heard Esther and I talk about this a lot, which is what we as Christians, Great Commission, Dominion Mandate, are called to do. And I think that's a neat way of thinking about that, as wherever you are, having that hospitable mindset.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the first issue, the theme was that women ought to man their posts. What do you think are some common temptations that would lead a woman away from manning her post?
Yeah. So I think just all the ideas that come from feminism, that like I was talking about before, this just whole me first selfish mentality, anything that is involved in that is a result of feminism, and that's going to pull you away from your mission. So that can be anything from kind of the obvious one that we think of, like this woman who's pursuing this big career in order that she's putting her identity in, and her whole life revolves around that. But that can also be just, somebody wanting to constantly be at the gym, or, on their phone all the time. Like our social media is a big time sucker. And so that can definitely be something that is taking us away from manning our posts. And that's not even something that you have to be a feminist to have taken you away from, And so there's lots of things, whether you are pulled by a feminist mindset or not, that we can be these things that are taking us away from the mission. So another thing I wanted to say was also being too busy with church activities. This is something that I see a lot in my church in particular, where I think that we have this sense of obligation that we need to be serving in every single ministry, or we need to kind of be involved in all these different programs, and that these things can be good in moderation, and we should be serving and we should be investing in our local body of believers. But they are not supposed to take precedent of what our job is at home. So we need to have a really good mindset, because it's not more virtuous to be spending all your time at church meetings and church functions than it is to be like out getting a paycheck at a job. Like they're both still taking you away from the home. And so I think that sometimes in church culture, we can get the idea, we're like, oh, well, I'm a homemaker because I stay at home and I don't bring in a paycheck, but I'm going to go and sign up for every single Bible study. And, and so we need to be wise and careful about what we're committing our time to. And also just not having, a me first attitude about these things. So,
and also I think along with that, especially when you get involved with all the church events, it really can just separate the family, and segregate them to where then the family, like you're saying, is no longer healthy, because now we've separated everyone constantly all the time, and it seems spiritual because it's at church, but then if you look at all the families, it's like, are they actually healthy? And are they loyal to each other? And are the families actually growing and building each other up instead of just separating everyone out?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so you have 2 boys. So what kind of a mental toughness does it require as a female to raise godly boys who will grow up to be dragon slayers that only fear God?
Yeah, this mental toughness is a really good word for what it requires. Well, yeah, you need a lot of that. I think you have to, first of all, everything is androgynous these days. There's no real... I mean, can you guys tell I'm passionate about like the roles of biblical men and women?
I love it.
So you have to realize you're not just raising kids, you're raising boys. And if you're a mother of boys. And so you don't parent boys and girls the same. I don't have girls, but I know that you need to parent them as boys, not just kids. And so it's really important to raise them up with the mindset that they need to be strong, that they need to be leaders, and that it's for the purpose of sending them out. And I think that as moms, that we can have this idea where we want to keep our babies close to us forever. And really, like, we don't want... It would be a failure on our part if we were raising boys who ended up being mama's boys when they're men, And so we need to be willing to let them take risks and challenges that maybe might be outside our comfort zone, and pursuing things that are going to cultivate that character in them, that sense of grit, and giving them room to explore. One of the things that we have really made priority with our kids is having them spend a lot of time in nature. And when I take them out in nature, I try really hard not to really be hovering over them. I want to let them wander. I want to let them explore. I want to let them climb the trees and get super dirty and, you know, have that experience of being wild and free, with, you know, still me there to supervise and make sure they're safe. But it's things like that where they need to have a sense of risk and danger, where they learn how to do it rightly, so that when they're men and they are going to have to be in truly dangerous situations, they've learned how to do it in the right way. Because I think if you hold them too close and you are trying to stifle that sense of adventure in them, it can make them timid and or just overly soft. And we want to cultivate that sense of strength and daring in them. So those are some of the things that we've done.
And kind of along with that, would, like, when they grow up, if you start to see that them being soft, would that kind of come from like moments when they're little, like let's say they were climbing a tree and fell or whatever, and they scraped the knee, that you made too big of a deal out of it and treated it more like perhaps you would with a girl, where it was just like, you know, they had a long moment to like cry instead of like, okay, you need to be done now and get up and go back out there again. But is some of that come from that, where we treat the boys more like the girls in that sense?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I kind of wonder, like, if I had girls, how I would be, because sometimes I feel like girls, people can tend to fuss over them crying a little bit too much too. and I'm a really big believer that any type of emotional outburst like that is manipulation, and it just really feeds that sense of poor me, you know. And so I think that it's extremely important that we don't spend too much time over comforting. There's a time and a place to comfort. We need to be that place where when they have questions and they're going through hard times, that we can have these conversations and we can talk to them about anything. And they know that we're a safe place to confide in and come to for counsel. But I think when they're going through, you know, when they get a scraped knee or they're meeting some kind of a challenge, it probably sounds bad, but like one of the things my husband and I always say is drink some concrete and harden up. Because we're just like, sorry, like, suck it up, you know?
Great.
Yeah.
That's great.
You're good, you know? All right, time to get up, time to keep going. And so we always are like, no, this, you know, it's not, strong men don't sit here and wallow. You need to get back up and you need to do the thing. But I will say that this was not very hard for me with them as little boys, with kind of being, you know, tough in that way with them and teaching them to be tough. What's harder for me is now that they're older, and I'm not just dealing with things like scraped knees. I'm dealing with things like a really challenging long math lesson and, you know, them having to miss out on something that they were really looking forward to because they did not get their stuff done. And so now being tough means saying, no, you have to get this thing done. And that kind of thing is, I think, also where moms can want to come into the rescue and make life easy for their children and for their boys in particular, or make excuses. And what we really need to do is give them the opportunity to rise up and do the hard thing. And that's going to mean that we have to be tough and we have to take that step back and let them reap the consequences, even if it just, you know, it's a real bummer for them. So.
Yes.
And I think that really trains, like, especially with not letting them wallow, first of all, self-control, but then it's also like our Heavenly Father, because, he lets us go through these hard trials in order to toughen us up and remove the dross from us. And so I think that's really important.
Yeah.
So that's very good. I love, though, the drink the concrete and toughen up. I love that. That's so great.
Yeah, I know. We used to joke about how we were going to get it. We're like, how a few years back, the signs, like the chalkboard signs for all the rage in houses for home decor, the letter art, like we were going to get some super cute letter art thing and put it on our wall, and it was going to say that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Great.
Yeah.
So we're moving on now to personal questions. So the first one is, what is one of your favorite books?
Okay, so this was a really hard one for me. I hope it's okay, but I did kind of like a list of books that kind of fit a theme, because I could name lots of books. So something that is really, that it's just very dear to my heart, and really, I don't know, it's kind of the driving force behind everything I am and what I endeavor to do, is this idea of the meta-narrative of God in Scripture, and how he is working to make this world new, and how he is telling this story from Eden all the way to the new creation, and how I get to be part of it. And it's just thinking about that really fills my heart with so much worship. And so I love books that have that aroma and cause me to think of this grand story that God is writing, and how he is making all the broken things come untrue. And so everybody knows I love Lord of the Rings, so we can take that one for granted. But the one I wanted to mention was the Wing Feather series. I read that with my kids 2 years ago now, and it was one of the most special experiences that we've ever had, and I know is going to be something like we go back to as like our favorite memory. That story just really, really, in the same way that the Lord of the Rings does, have that idea of suffering and brokenness and redemption and all things being made new. And so that's one. Paralandra by C.S. Lewis, that's another one that you really see that kind of what it looks like in the new Eden, and what it's going to look like when things all get restored. And then the book Paradise Restored by David Chilton, that one is just like so good and impactful, and that's not a story, but is a like theology book. And also Far As the Curse Is Found. Far As the Curse Is Found is a book about covenant theology, and it goes through all the covenants of Scripture, but it is really laying out like what is this big meta-narrative that we see in the Bible, and it just shows you how this is all one big story. It's all working together, and I don't know. I just think it's amazing. I think it's amazing that God did this and that we get to be part of it. So those are my books, I guess. Some of my favorites.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's great.
No, and even when you're talking about the meta-narrative, it reminded me of in our chronological reading plan. It's like we'll talk about that, like when we first heard about it and discovering that, and then also like each time you read it, though, there's a new almost like theme that we pick up on. Mm-hmm. So like you may see like I don't know, like one recently we discovered was like beauty and how often that's mentioned, mm-hmm. or like you can see the fear of the Lord strung throughout the whole thing. So that's also really neat to see it all tied together from beginning to end that way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I really love typology, and I think that studying books like this, it just opens your eyes to seeing these things. And I like to think of it as like God's poetry. It's his artwork, mm-hmm. that he he does all these little things that it's like, oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yes. Okay, next one. If you could have tea or coffee with any woman from history, who would it be and why?
Okay, so I've watched like almost all of your episodes, and and so I've seen all the amazing ladies that people say, and so I've had a lot of time to think about this and thinking like, who would I pick? You know, there's so many great ladies, but the thing I just keep coming back to is the people who I really, really would love to get together with are the people in this moment of history. Because God put me here in this point of time, and I would really love to have tea or coffee with, you know, you guys or my other writers that that I've been able to work with, or just other people who from afar who I don't have the opportunity to get together with in person, who have discipled me through various ways, and because these are the people that like we are in this moment of time, and so we are getting to talk about what it looks like to be on mission right now, and with the world we live in, the type of issues that we are dealing with, and I think there's just such a camaraderie that comes from that, and kind of like what we were saying in the beginning, but yeah, I think that it would be all of you guys.
That's great. Love that. So, okay, so the next one. What is one trend that you just cannot get behind, and why?
Okay, so it's the TikTok dances. Like when people are doing these little, I don't know, like moving their hands around and then there's like a caption, and it just drives me nuts, and it's very also frustrating from a content creator perspective, because I'm like, why are you guys getting so many likes? Because I just busted my butt trying to write this whole beautiful thing, and but I just find it to be so vain, and I think just some of the other things that I see on social media, like girls doing their makeup in front of the camera, I'm like, that's not very ladylike to be like all grungy in front of the camera. It's not, I don't care if you're being authentic. It's not ladylike. And so, some of these things that I see as trends on social media, I think they get a lot of traction, they get a lot of likes, but they seem very vain and self-promoting and just fake and really cringy. So yeah.
If your life had a soundtrack, what would be one song on it?
Okay, so again, going back to the meta narrative and the story of redemption, and I think one of my favorite songs ever is He Worthy by Andrew Peterson. That song really kind of gets to the place of brokenness that we see in the world. And are you guys familiar with this song?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And but talks about how he's going to make everything new. And there's a line in there that says he has made us a kingdom and priest to God to reign with the Son. And just this idea that we get to reign with him and what that means right now. And it just blows my mind all the time. And we always, actually this time of year, right before Easter, my boys and I will spend a lot of time singing that song together as one of our hymns to prepare our hearts for Easter. And it's been deeply impactful to them as well. And we talk a lot, like, when they're struggling with a sin issue, and I'll ask them, is he worthy? Is he worthy for you to repent right now and stop doing this thing that you're doing? And because they love it and they love him, they are reminded of that, and they're like, yes, he is worthy. And so I just feel like it's such a great song that encompasses the Christian life and how we should be standing in awe of him. And that's kind of how I want to live. So
I think that was too, wasn't that one of John MacArthur's favorite songs? I think they played it at his funeral.
Yes.
It was beautiful.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's cool.
It was very pretty.
Yeah.
So what is something that has stood out to you recently that has captured the essence of feminine glory?
Okay, so I mentioned before my friends who are great at hospitality. I have this amazing group of friends who are just truly, truly godly women. And we get together every week for a family Bible study. And all of us ladies plan the meal, and we work together and, put on like a whole event because there's a lot of people who come to this thing. And it's really amazing to see all these ladies in action and how they're just excited to do it. It's never a burden. They are excited to do this work of blessing all of our community. And these women, I just feel so privileged that I get to work alongside them and in my life right now, and how they are really exemplifying what it is to, like I was saying, show militant hospitality in the way they're bringing meals to people or inviting people into their homes, and being faithful to discipline their kids and honor their husbands. And they're just such great women to work alongside of. And when I think of feminine glory, I really think of how these ladies are living just like every day. And so, yeah.
And I think that that community you were describing there also is such a fun picture, almost of like another version of your family, like how you and your family kind of build one another up, help each other along through all of that, learn from one another. It's kind of like yet another version of that, just in a bigger, wider way within like the church. And I think that's really sweet. We've had a couple ladies that have said things like that, and I just love hearing that.
Yeah,
it's very encouraging.
Yeah.
Well, Heather, this has been amazing. Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me. It's been such a pleasure.
Likewise. Until next time, keep pursuing feminine glory, and we will see you on the next episode of the Feminine Glory Podcast.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Well, everyone, this is the everyone's favorite part of the podcast, where we ask you to like and subscribe our videos because YouTube likes us to. So we're doing it. And Apple Podcasts likes us too. Wherever you find our channel, they like us to ask you to like and subscribe. So we're doing it.
So if you are in favor, go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Or you don't have to.
You can just walk away.
And we won't be offended.
Nope. If you don't like us, just walk away. Don't feel like you need to say anything. Don't feel like you need to explain yourself. Let's just do a clean breakup. You go walk away. And you don't ever have to listen to us again. So there you go.
So if you feel so obliged,
yep,
you can like it, you can subscribe, or you can go on your merry way.
Yep. Either way, the choice is up to you. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood.
Will you take the one less traveled by?
Will it make all the difference? Whether you listen to us or not. Anyway, there you go. There's our little bit that we had to say to subscribe.
All right.
So thank you guys.
Bye.
Bye.